Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of The Brown Couch with Vanita, me. Today we will be having a young lady here who I've never met. We have corresponded. I've watched her on social media and she is so excited to be here with us. Sit back and let's learn about April Harden. Welcome. Finally get to meet you. Finally come in. Come in.
Hello.
Welcome to my home.
Thank you. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Take off my shoes.
No.
Oh, I know my mom.
Have a seat over here. Welcome, April. Welcome, April. So, April, I always start my show with how do we meet? But you and I have never met. When you walked through that door was the first time we ever met. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read something before we start talking. So sit back and listen.
Okay.
I could just scream and shout right now. God is so good to me. I don't share too much of my personal business because I was ashamed of my story. And I've been a private person or try to keep people out of my business because most people aren't generally happy for you. They just want to know your business so they can talk about you to others. Well, in 2014, I trafficked drugs for my ex-boyfriend at the time. Not really knowing the severity of the situation, nor did I think I'd get caught. I did it because I loved him and was trying to be down for him. I ended up getting caught and was sentenced to 4 years in prison. People who had been there for, such as some family members, took advantage of me, stole from me, and weren't there for me like I thought they would be. Nor was my ex, who I caught the case for, there for me. But I still chose to love and forgive. When I came home, I had to be placed on PRC for 5 years. I got a job with the state of Ohio and was doing good. After a couple of months, my PO at the time recommended I call in every month on the 4th of every month. I had to call in and make payments to them. Laugh out loud. On top of that, if I wanted to go out of town, I had to ask for permission and get a travel permit. In October of 2020, I was assigned to a new officer. He was much more strict than my last officer. I missed out on a lot of opportunities for my business because he would say no to me going out of town quite often. On top of that, my own so-called family called him and told lies on me to get me arrested. A month ago, he messaged me saying he was recommending that I released early from supervision, but it would take a couple of weeks to hear a decision. Then 2 weeks ago, he told me that they said yes, and I was officially done, and I didn't need a travel permit to go to Chicago. I thought it was so good to be too true. So I questioned it. But this morning, he just sent me the paperwork, so now I know it's official. Thank you, Jesus. I deserve all the good that has and is coming my way. When you do good, it may not always be I can't pronounce this, y'all. But continue to be with who you are in spite of how others respond or treat you. For a reward is in heaven, not on earth. Amen to that. Stay tuned. This is only the beginning. I will be doing an interview more about my testimony. I've been writing a book that will be released soon, meaning in God's timing. Thank you to everyone who supported me and helped with my kids and etc. I'm here to tell you that no devil in hell can stop what God has destined for you to be great.
Yes.
What compelled you to do your testimony? Because this was on social media. And I happened to be a friend of yours on Facebook and saw this. And it touched me so much. And I'm like, what better way to introduce April than in April's own words? When you were writing this, what were you feeling?
Well, like I mentioned, I'm a very private person. I don't really open up to a lot of people. I don't really talk about things that I've gone through. I just kind of keep it to myself. I had been saying that I was going to start telling, bits and pieces here and there of my testimony, because I feel like, people are interested in hearing about what's going on with my life. Whenever I post a story, people are watching. And whenever I have maybe mentioned a little bit about my testimony on social media, I find that I get a lot of reaction. But not only that, I know that I've been through a lot, and I have a lot of mistakes that I've made in life.
Don't we all?
Absolutely.
We all? Some of us just haven't been caught.
Right. True. And I've been, there's been a lot of good that has gone on in my life as well. And so I felt the need, because for one, I was excited, about, being off of parole, because it was kind of discouraging, because I had already did 4 years in prison, and then to come home and it's like they still try to keep you tied down. I'm paying, money every month for something that I don't even want to be on. I have to pay them, I have to report. And times where I could have gone out of town for business opportunities booked in other states from like famous people that I wasn't able to attend because my parole officer would say no reason why.
Okay.
Just no, because I guess he had the power to say no. So
was it just you couldn't go out of state, or could you not go to other counties within Ohio as well?
I couldn't go out of state. Ohio, anywhere in Ohio I could go, but if it was anywhere, out of state, outside of Ohio, I wasn't able to. I had to ask permission, and I would ask permission every time. And I know a lot of people would say, well, girl, just sneak out of town. I used to, and I felt like nothing or no one is worth me ever going back to that place. I'm like, it just is not worth it to me. And so I would always ask, and even though I would get told no quite a few times, it was discouraging, but at the same time, it just fueled me to never put myself in a situation like that again. But like I said, what made me want to say that and speak on that was, because I feel like I have a lot to share with the world, and I want to be able to help someone, because I know when I was incarcerated, and you would get around certain women and talk to them, and we would share stories here and there, and a lot of women would say, oh, well, I caught a case for my boyfriend as well, or and so I was just like, wow, it dawned on me that a lot of us women do so much when we're in love, in a relationship, be willing to put our life on the line for somebody that's not even around, that probably could have cared less about us. And not saying that every situation is like that, but most of the time it is. It's like, a guy will see a weak woman, or, think that, and you're vulnerable, you love them. And like at the time, I'm a very loyal person, and I feel like I had a misconception of what love really was. I thought that love was doing. The more you do for a person, the more they'll love you. And so that's where it came in, to where I'm like, well, he wants me to, traffic some drugs. I love him. It's going to make him love me even more. That was my stinking thinking. And so, I did that, but I felt like a lot of people could relate basically to my story.
What were some of the responses you got from this once you posted it?
I got an overwhelming amount of responses, all positive love, positive feedback. A lot of people told me congratulations, how proud they were of me, and to just stay strong in my faith, and to know that God has my back. And so it was a great feeling, because like I said, when I post about my testimony, I get an overwhelming amount of love and responses. So
take us through your last day. And you're walking. Were you at ORW or were you in Dayton?
I was at ORW last time.
Marysville.
Yes.
Take us through that day when you were leaving. What was that like?
Wow. Oh, God.
And if it's traumatizing for you, we won't talk about it.
No, it's not traumatizing. It's just, it just is, I don't know. It still makes me emotional. It was just a great feeling because I never thought that day would come, you know, to the point where when I was incarcerated, every day I would look on the calendar and count the days down. And I'm like, it's only one day that has gone by, you know? And I had to, for my mental sake, I had to stop looking at the calendar, stop thinking about it. And so I never thought that day, you know, would come. And so when it finally came, I just couldn't do nothing but cry. Like, really? Yes.
Tears of joy.
Tears of joy, most definitely tears of joy. It was just such a wonderful feeling, like none other.
Wait, were you in a halfway house, or did you go home?
I chose to go to a program called Rachel's House.
Oh, you went to Rachel's house?
Yes.
What years are we talking when you got out? What year was it?
I came home in May of 2019.
Oh, you just get out?
Yes. I'll be celebrating my 3rd year in May.
And how long did you have to stay at Rachel's house?
I didn't have to. It was basically up to me how long I wanted to stay, because my time was 4 years mandatory.
Okay.
I had to do day for day. I wasn't able to get out early. So once I was released, I chose to go there, but I could have left whenever I wanted to, because it wasn't like it was.
Your sentence was for 4 years?
Yes, ma'am.
With parole, not 4 years in time served?
I wish. No, it was 4 years with a mandatory 5 years PRC.
Okay.
Which obviously God has the final say so, hallelujah, because I got off early.
That's good. What were you a mother at the time?
Yes.
What was that like? How old was you, and how old were your children? Or child?
I have 2 daughters.
You have 2 daughters.
And at the time of me getting incarcerated, my youngest was 3, and my oldest was 7.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh, wow. So, what was that like? Take us through. Did they come to visit you?
Yeah, they did eventually. Well, let me bring that up again. Like I said, I am a private person. So I tried to keep my kids from the truth. Okay. I didn't want them to, for whatever reason, my thinking, I didn't want them to know that I was in prison. Like I said, I was ashamed. And so I had lied to them and told them that I was gone away to college. And so, you know, that was what they thought. And I thought to myself, could I really go 4 years without feeling my children's touch, seeing, you know, their faces? And I was like, I can't, you know, do 4 years without seeing my kids. They were in Florida. My aunt, she had took them in Florida. And so they were there, and she comes every year around the holidays. Her and her family, they come down to visit. And she said, hey, you know, we're going to be coming down to visit, you know, her mom and dad, my grandparents, because they're here in Ohio, and other family members. She said, are you sure you don't want me to bring the girls to come see you while we're down there?
What year was this you were in? How long had
I caught my case in November of 2014, but I didn't get sentenced until like June of 2015. So June of 2015, I was incarcerated, and I believe she came and brought them like that following year or something.
Let me ask you, April, did you ever go to any of the resource fairs?
Yes, I did.
Because I'm looking at you, and even when you came to the door, I'm like, I'm sure April came to my table.
I may have. It was in the gym.
Yeah, and I did this citizen circle.
Okay, yeah, I did go up to the citizen circle table. I remember because it sounds familiar. And then were you guys the ones that help out with like jobs and food, getting people on like food stamps and stuff like that.
That's Jobs and Family Services, but
okay.
We did.
Well,
but I'm look when I saw you, and then when you told me the years you were in there, I'm like, I know I've seen her.
Okay.
You look very familiar. You probably did come to I came to pretty much all the resource fairs, all the way up until 2019 when the COVID hit.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I was there whenever they had the resource fairs.
Yep, and I have been to like 2 of them.
So when you were there, Ronnie Burke was the warden.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
I love her.
I gotta get you. Yes.
Shout out to Ronnie. No, I'm just kidding.
Because when I started going into RW, it was Warden Trim, and then Ronnie worked alongside Warden Trim, and then she became the warden. So
yes.
Okay. So I'm sorry. I just I'm like, I've seen you before. And a lot of times when I sit down with somebody, they'll say, do you remember me? And I think of one of mine, I said, I don't remember everybody, but I'm looking at your face and I'm hearing your voice, and you do seem familiar to me. So we probably have talked and met before in ORW. And I'm sorry, when you said the years, it just came to mind. So did you wind up letting the girls come?
Yeah, I did. And I was glad.
Back the tears?
No, but I definitely was glad that I did. And then I ended up, over the phone telling them the truth about the situation and what happened to me. So, yes.
Wow. So let's fast forward. So you're walking out of the door and you're heading home. What were your plans? I talked to so many people and they're like, well, I'm going to get a job and I'm going to get a house and I'm going to get this. What were your to-do lists?
Well, my plans initially were the first day to go see my kids and, family and stuff like that.
No, what meal? What did you want that you hadn't had in 4 years?
I didn't really have a particular meal. I mean, of course, I used to watch food commercials and was tortured. I would literally be about to cry, no lie. I would be watching TV while in there and I'm like, oh my God, I miss real food. I can't, and would say stuff like that. But I didn't really have like a specific type of meal. I knew that I wanted like something home cooked from my grandma, something like that. But my thing was going to see my kids, some other family members, and getting my hair done. That was what my plans were. But then I was told, I think like a week before I was leaving, because Rachel's house, I was in RN1, which is an honor dorm. And so Rachel's house was able to do like Bible studies. They would do Bible studies at a church building, but then they were also allowed to do Bible studies inside of RN1, the honor dorm, once a week. And when she came, it was like maybe a week or a couple of days before I was coming home, and I had told her, I said, hey, my sister's gonna pick me up, I'm gonna go see my kids, and so she tells me like, no, we have to pick you up, like that's our rules. We are the first ones to pick you up, and then the next day you can leave to see your family. They said, but that first day we have to pick you up. If you don't go with us that day, you can't come to Rachel's house. And I was just like, wow. And so at first it kind of made me change my decision. I'm like, well, I'm not going there. Like, I want to see my kids. I want them. That's the first face I want to see. I don't want to see y'all. Like it's my, And so I thought about it, and I was like, I just gotta wait, And on top of that, Columbus is where I had wanted to stay at. So I knew that was a stepping stone to, me staying. So I did, I allowed them to come pick me up, and then the next day I was able to see my kids.
Oh,
so,
what was that like?
It was awesome. It was just wonderful, to be able to hug.
Somebody standing over you, monitoring you hugging your own child.
Exactly. And so it was a wonderful feeling to just be able, and I just held them a little longer and just, cherish that moment.
So how long were you at Rachel's house?
I was at Rachel's house, I think probably 6 months, or almost 6 months.
Did you obtain employment while you were there or when you left?
Yes, I was honest. I was blessed. Before I got home, Ohio Department of Transportation, who I am employed by. They would come inside of ORW like maybe every 6 months or once a year and do interviews with people who were you would get passed and you would come to the Riot building and they would interview you and say they would have different managers for different districts. Like District 6 is like your Franklin County area. District 5 maybe like Dayton, Toledo, stuff like that. And so if you were going home to Columbus, Dayton, Cincinnati, they had people there to interview you and let you know what type of jobs are available, what advancement opportunities and stuff. And then that you got interviewed and you told them your out date. And so they came, interviewed me, and everything went fine. And then they told me, they said, we know your out date. So when it gets closer to your out date, if you get a packet in the mail from us, then that means that we want to move to the next step for the hiring process. If you don't hear anything back from us, then we've moved forward. So when about a week or two after I had came home, I get this thick manila envelope in the mail, says my name. And I opened it and it was just like, paperwork, questions, all of that stuff. And it was from ODOT. And so I did my interview. We had this little physical test that we had to run through and everything. And I've been employed with them since, I believe, July of 2019.
Wow.
Yes. So so straight out, I had the opportunity.
So you're a mother.
Yes, ma'am.
You work for the state, and you're a business owner. What's your business?
My business is called Divine Sweets. It is a baking business, and it's divine without the I, the first I after the D.
Oh, divine.
Yes, like divine, but yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And what's your specialties? What are your specialties?
We specialize in custom cakes and just all different types of treats for all occasions. But one thing that was really popular was our cheesecake jars and our brownies.
When you say ours, you have a partner?
No, well, it's gonna be a family, or it's a family business because my kids be helping me even though they don't like it. But I always tell them, like, one day you guys are gonna be running this business. So, but I
Who
say
helped you
ours.
through the process of starting your business?
Well, I've always had the entrepreneur, business mind and entrepreneur spirit in me. My grandfather is a pastor in Dayton, Ohio, and had his own church. And so I tried to start my own business at his church because he has a church building, and then he also had like a skating rink building on like behind the church, and then there was another building that was like our dining hall. Like my grandmother would make like fourth Sunday dinner, and we would all come in there. And then my grandfather, he's a very handy man, construction. So he like made a playroom, and it had like a pool table inside of it.
It's a big church.
Yeah. Different buildings that made up the church. At a pool table, similar games to like Chuck E. Cheese, the little skee ball where you roll the ball into the points. It had like a little basketball hoop. And so I was going to rent that space out to people who were having like birthday parties and stuff, and wedding events and things like that. So that was my first business that I started. I didn't make any, I think I only had like one customer. So it was a flop.
So you were released to Columbus?
Yes.
But
I had started this prior.
Because I was getting confused. I'm like, Rachel's house is in Columbus. I don't think they're in Dayton.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
This was.
Do you plant? So your home is Columbus. You're here in Seabus.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But yes, I did. Like I said, I had that entrepreneur, and it runs in my family. Like I said, my grandfather's a pastor. He does all types of handiwork. And then on my father's side, my mom and papa, well, it's my grandmother, but we call her mom. Well, they're both deceased, God bless them. But they owned a car wash. So I have on my mom's side, the pastor, and then my dad's side, the car wash or whatever. So I felt like, entrepreneurship runs in the family. And so I tried to start that business years ago in Dayton. It didn't work out, but I always knew that I wanted to be my own boss and have my own business. And so prior to me getting incarcerated, my kids' aunt on their father's side, she had a nonprofit girls youth group. And my oldest daughter at the time was a part of it, but my youngest daughter was too young. They had a certain age requirement. And I used to bake desserts they would meet up and, do like activities for young girls, like where they would look in the mirror and say positive affirmations to their self, play. And it was about like building up their character, building up their self-esteem, different activities every time I think they met like once a month, but there was different activities. And I would bring in baked goods, just to help out, some refreshments, so she didn't have to like pay to get them. I just donated. And to see like the look on the kids' face while they were sitting there eating the desserts, it just made me happy. And so that was where it started. And then when I got incarcerated, I was going through, we were able to take college courses and through Sinclair Community College, which is funny because when I was in Dayton, I went to Sinclair Community College campus in Dayton, and they had Sinclair Community College campus at ORW. So I took up they offered culinary arts and baking, and I took that up. And so I wasn't able to get like an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree in it, but I have like a host of certificates as far as like hospitality management, customer service, pastry and confectioners, and all those good things. So I had a whole bunch of baking certificates. And while I was there, I was just thinking of a name and thinking of the vision. Because at first I wanted to do like a sweets truck, like a sweets food truck. Because I'm like, you don't really hear about a sweets truck. You hear about like a food truck and things like that, but you don't really hear a sweets truck. And I always try to be like different and try to be like, oh, I'm the first one that's, whatever. And so I was like, but my vision for my baking building was far greater than a food truck. Like, my vision for my baking building, I wanted to bring people together and feel like a family home vibe, eating pastries, or like college students coming in, using the Wi-Fi, doing their homework, but having like a jazz band playing and having like desserts named after iconic people or people that are making changes in the world. So I was just like, the food truck wouldn't be able to provide that type of vibe or that type of
ambiance.
Yes, because food truck, you just pick up some food and you go.
Well, not necessarily. It depends on where you park your truck.
True.
And if you've got it in a park area that has benches and seats.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. I've
but the only
seen
thing
that
with
too.
that, you're only talking spring, summer time, not the winter time.
Yeah,
because
true.
you can't do that in the winter time. But you've put it out there in the atmosphere. God heard it.
Absolutely.
You spoke it.
Yes.
And if you keep your dream going, it will happen. So April, I am so excited you came in. I was glad to finally meet you in person. Is there anything that you would like to tell our audience coming from you that might be inspirational to them, or to someone who may have a family member that's still incarcerated and they're just like up in arms, or to someone who has gotten out and hasn't gotten as far as you have, and telling them something like, just keep going, don't give up? What would you like to say to people?
What I would like to say is to just keep the faith, to never give up, never stop believing, never stop dreaming, and your current situation is not your final destination.
Amen. I like that.
you know, I've made mistakes in life, as we all have, but don't let that discourage you and get you down, because you can always turn things around as long as you still have breath in your body. And, you know, I was just telling my daughter this before I left here to this interview, that you may make wrong choices in life, but you still have the power to turn the situation around for your good. Because I know when I was sitting in that jail cell, and I couldn't understand how somebody like me, never in my wildest dreams would have ever thought in a million years that I would be incarcerated. And I thought I was being punished by God. I really thought I was being punished. I'm like, God, I'm not the type of person. I did this out of love. And I'm not, you know, blaming everything on the guy. I take full responsibility for the part that I took in the situation. But I'm like, you know, me trying to be down and be there for somebody put me in this predicament, taking me away from my kids. And I thought that the situation was meant for my harm, was meant, but what God knew, he knew that the situation was, he turned it around for my good. And all along he knew that this, I mean, it's unfortunate that I had to go to prison, but I honestly feel like it was what I needed. And my business stands on Jeremiah 29:11, for he knows the plans that are for your good and not for your harm. And so I just want to say, just keep going. Don't let the things that you've done continue to eat at you or beat you up. You can turn your situation around as long as you believe, have faith, and have good and positive people around you that don't bring up your past and say that you can't do it, because you definitely can.
Wow. Wow. Thank you, April. How can we find out? I see you left some business cards here on the table for us. How do we find out about you?
You guys can follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Divine Sweets, and that is DVINE Sweets. We also, you can also email us, and we do have a website coming soon. So
thank you.
I am so glad.
I am so glad we finally met.
I know,
in person.
me too.
Finally. I got to just one last thing before we say goodbye here. When I reached out to April, so just to tell you a little bit, we have Reentry Week here in Ohio. We're all around the state, and she was one of the speakers at the Reentry Week. She was on the entrepreneurship panel. And then there was a conference that the West Conference United Methodist Church puts on, and I was trying to get her to be a speaker at this conference. She didn't know who I was, who this woman is, trying to reach out to her. Who is this lady getting me on my phone, getting me on my emails? And she actually responded to someone else. I wanted to be a speaker, and I happened to see that, and I think I finally got your phone number. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, why are you ignoring me? And she's like, well, who are you? And ever since I explained who I was and what I do, and I showed her where the brown couch was, and I told her to go to our website, she was like, okay, I got to get on the brown couch. So you're on the brown couch. Yes. And you are my first guest who I'd never met before. And I think that you're going to inspire a lot of people out there for your testimony. Your story is now your testimony. Yeah. And I'm going to say this. We had a couple of people who almost broke down and cried. You were almost you would have been my first one. You were almost there. But those are good tears.
Amen. Tears of joy.
Let's say thank you to our audience for listening, and we got more things to do together.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Have a blessed one.